like to ask my best friend Al Williams to start with a prayer. Which number? 19.
Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting eternal God, we thank you for this opportunity. Once again, you've given us an opportunity to serve the people of Georgia. Thank you for those that have come. Thank you for this committee. Let us be mindful that whatever we do affects the lives of many, and let's do it with you in mind. For it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Can I have a motion to start the meeting? Second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Thank you very much. This is a very important meeting. For the people in the audience, I really appreciate all your participation. It's a big ask for a lot of these people to come from long distances away. There's only a couple of us up here right now, but the people be coming in and out as they go to other committees, which it's getting busier at the time. First one thing I talked about is the installation visits. We had one for Fort Gordon, one for Moody Air Force Base. Fort Stewart will be 9th of March. Robins Air Force Base will be 22 March. And the Georgia National Guard Day will be 14th March. Is that correct? Okay. I also want you to be aware that I am working with the governor's people, particularly Navy Secretary of Navy William Ball and Rogers Wade, about recommissioning the Georgia Military Affairs Commission. And that will be after probably the House, the work is done this session. But I want you to know that we are working towards getting that going again. And I also want you to know that we, right now, the House has put in about $500,000 per year for school counselors for military children. So it's going to be a matching grant, $500,000 per year for 3 years. This committee is going to monitor the progress of that, see if it's effective, and if it is effective, we'll hope to do some more of that. But right now, it's in the House budget. I'm working with the Senate and the governor, and hopefully they'll keep that in that budget. Right. I'll get right to the agenda, which is to really to listen to y'all. One of the things I was really surprised when we did these visits is how much the military cares about education. And what I was very, very glad to find out, is that actually the university system of Georgia and the technical college system of Georgia are doing a great job at education. So that's the good news. And so we want to learn from you, hopefully learn best practices amongst yourself, hopefully network it amongst yourselves, and also what I'm really hoping is we can push down some of this good stuff that y'all are doing to the K-12 level, so that we can create military-friendly flagships schools on the K-12 level, so that the whole K through senior in college is military-friendly in Georgia. So without further ado, I want to talk represent David Snow of the University System of Georgia, and you have the podium, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members, and guests. Thank you for inviting my counterparts and I to speak with you today. We have representatives from 16 USG schools in attendance. As you're aware, the University System of Georgia is committed to serving our military-affiliated students. And during previous committee hearings, I've had the opportunity to share good news with you, such as how 90% of our institutions currently have a dedicated space for veterans, and how 80% now offer priority registration for VA veterans utilizing VA benefits. Have we revised USG policies to better address affordability and access issues for our military-affiliated students? And University System of Georgia's promotion of best practices throughout the system to further facilitate student access and success and support. It is worth noting that every USG institution has appeared on at least one of the various military-friendly listings that are published today, and you will hear from a few of them today. Remember, while you will only have the opportunity to hear directly from 5 of them, that all of our institutions across the state are committed to serving those who served our great nation. Lastly, you have also heard previously how we're often seen as a system, as a leader nationally, and working with our institutions and collaborating to address these issues. While I have previously spoken with you, it is my pleasure to introduce to you representatives from some of our USG institutions to share with you the great initiatives that they have in place on campus. Our campuses are doing great things every day that you may not be aware of, such as dedicating a Freedom Gallery and creating an exceptional military initiative at ABAC, or working with the community to host a very successful military appreciation family day at Georgia Highlands College. They're hosting military ball at Georgia College, or meetings of the Georgia Tech Affinity Group for military students and veterans and community leaders. And the work that's being done at Georgia Southern, where they raise funds for the Wounded Eagle Project, but also were selected by the Small Business Administration to be the host of the VBOC, the Veterans Business Opportunity Center, that serves all of Georgia, about 2/3 of South Carolina, and a portion of Florida. Or how Valdosta sets aside about 10% of their nursing seats for veterans or military affiliated students. These are the types of things that go on every day across our great state. The institutions addressing you today represent every classification of public higher education, from research universities to comprehensive universities, state universities, and state colleges. Unfortunately, Kennesaw was going to speak, and they were unable to make it today due to illness. They're one of our first institutions with a veteran center on campus, and they do have a couple things that are pretty unique. Their GAVE program, Georgia Helping Assist Educating Veterans Initiative, which works with veterans looking to go into entrepreneurial endeavors, as well as their parking that they have on campus that's reserved for recipients of the Purple Heart. So those are some pretty unique things. Coming up next, though, we have 5 institutions that were recently named out of 130 institutions nationwide that were designated as best for vets by Military Times. And in order, they are Phil Gore from Armstrong State University, Mark Geister of Georgia State, Ted Barco of the University of Georgia, Kimberly Burgess of the College of Coastal Georgia, and David Barron from Augusta University. Thank you, and all of our institution reps from those 16 schools will be available to answer questions afterwards. So without further ado, Phil.
Good afternoon, Chairman Belton and esteemed members of the committee. I'm pleased to appear before you today to discuss initiatives to promote military-affiliated student success at Armstrong State University. 1,126 military-affiliated students, or 16% of the university's student population, were enrolled at Armstrong in the fall of 2016. Our efforts to provide a military and veteran-friendly campus culture have resulted in 12 national recognitions over the past 2 years, including, as Dr. Snow said, number 7 on military Best for Vets in 2016 and number 4 this year. While we do offer a number of programs and services that support our military students, my remarks today are going to focus on the multifaceted approach used to achieving the successful outcomes that we have for those students. The first thing we focus on when developing a program is community engagement. Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield are home to 3rd Infantry Division, multiple tenant units, including the Rangers, Special Operations Aviators, and Army and Air National Guard. These forces, combined with the Army's longest runway on the East Coast and the Savannah Port, make our area the Army's premier power projection platform on the Atlantic coast. The members of the units, government, and contracted support officials and their families are all part of our community. Basically, their home is our home. We work closely together with them on issues that range from BRAC down to making sure that every single service member or family member has the basic necessities. We have constant interaction between service members, veterans, family members, and our alumni on campus and are in the area that are involved in military affiliated or focused events. Basically, everything we do to support military student population starts with the way we engage the community. Next, we focus on transition support. We found that although there is a constant communication between the military, political, healthcare, education, and business leaders, very little interaction takes place amongst all the interested parties at one time. It needs to be understood that a community understands the tradition process and its impact on the military-affiliated population will be in a better position to support the shift from military to civilian life. The reality is that it is a process, not an event. A more successful transition leads to increased skilled workers entering our workforce, higher enrollment of qualified, fully funded students on our college campus, and an increase in the diversity of our population. The economic impact in successfully bridging the gap between military to civilian life is immeasurable, as the return on investment made to support the transition will continue on for many years after life in uniform. The third area Armstrong is committed to is having the veteran-friendly campus culture. That's achieved by top-down support that begins with our president. We provide faculty, staff, student, and alumni awareness training programs that include trips to military installations, where our faculty, staff, student, and members of the alumni interact with service members. They see their work environment, and they actually get to participate in various training exercises. We do have a resource center on campus that is much more than a lounge. It's actually a hub for our support services and the programs that range from something like printing to being able to come and get support for their disability claims. We also have, we conduct military-related events, which Dr. Snow had mentioned, some of them on campus in the community, such as the parades, the ceremonies. We do military spouse recognition, service branch cake cutting ceremonies, and military appreciation athletic events. Our Student Veterans of America organization has received national recognition for some of its accomplishments, and our military alumni group maintains a constant presence on campus. Finally, Armstrong develops services that ensure military-affiliated students achieve their academic, professional, and life goals. We take a three-pronged approach towards success. It's a course of study, it's entering the workforce, and then it's the personal success. Our daily efforts are focused on academics, and we basically use the training method that we've all heard in the military, the step-by-step. Studying, tutoring, quiz by quiz, test by test, semester by semester. It's accomplished through peer-to-peer tutoring, as well as direct military advising and mentoring that we pair new military students with a military student that's been there at least 3 semesters, as well as a member of our military alum, preferably in the course of study that the new student is already working with. We celebrate academic success with a military graduation awards dinner, where service members, veterans, and current Guard and Reserve members receive red, white, and blue honor cords that they are worn for being recognized at commencements. The professional goals are pursued through our career exploration, networking, resume writing, and interview support. That goal is achieved when the student enters the workforce and begins their new career. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my remarks. I thank you and the committee members for your outstanding continuing support of our service members, veterans, and their families. Look forward to working closely with you to strengthen the efforts that the state makes to ensure that our military-affiliated students continue to achieve their academic, professional, and life goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just very briefly, what would you say that was, I mean, obviously number 7 in the whole nation is a huge award, and thank you for your service, sir.
Yes.
What was the biggest thing y'all did this year, do you think?
I think the biggest thing that we were able to accomplish was just that creating that transition in creating the campus climate, the campus culture. You've got a lot of people on a campus that have no ties to the military. They have no understanding of what it's like to serve, be a spouse, be a dependent, transition from one place to another, one school to another. So when we're able to kind of make that campus culture a lot more military and veteran friendly, just through that awareness, now all of a sudden we've got a lot more things like just an instructor. They wouldn't know. Going in to teach a class, I can use my laser pointer all day long. That might mean nothing to you. To me, that might mean a whole different thing. So again, we're not asking for an exception, but awareness.
Do most of the kids have a mentor? Or it's not the kids, the veterans have a mentor?
The vast majority do. Not only do we use the ones on campus, but there are several mentoring programs off campus in the community, as well as national programs that we're involved with on a much larger scale. Bank of America, even Gulfstream, some of those folks.
Chairman Hitchens?
Wouldn't you say that the satellite campus at Fort Stewart was something that was very significant too, that we funded?
Absolutely, yeah. Very graciously funded by you all. Our campus, the Liberty Center in Hinesville, had been there for a number of years, and really at the end of the day, we just lacked the physical space. And so last year that campus opened, the immediate enrollment was 433 students. We've had year-over-year growth the past 2 years of just over 20%, and that is military students. We're expected another 20 to 25% growth. So yeah, that's a huge one. Mainly we're seeing active duty and a lot of military spouses that are enrolled in there. We also utilize that as a launching pad for joint service with Liberty County, where we have a lot of dual enrollment, especially military dependent children who are using that senior year, but are also taking a few college classes there as well.
Thank you. We have a very aggressive schedule, but Representative Williams, real quickly.
And it was placed in a location, it was right near a brand-new library, and it has changed everything on that street. And it's a very attractive area, and we look forward to a lot of growth over there.
Absolutely. Again, we appreciate your support.
Thank you, Mr. Gore.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Belton and other members of the Military Affairs Committee. My name is Mark Eister, and I'm the Director of Military Outreach at Georgia State University. Clearly, I win the award for the shortest commute this morning, like 2 blocks around the corner. Again, thank you for taking time out. I know BRAC and the other bills you're working on for veterans is very time intensive, so thank you very much for taking time out for us and for veterans, student veterans this morning. Going to touch on a few things that will just give you kind of an essence, a flavor of what we're trying to do at Georgia State. First of all, when you mention Georgia State, most people think about the consolidation where we just consolidated with Georgia Perimeter College, which is now Perimeter College at Georgia State University. So we went from 1 large campus to 6 large campuses. And with 52,000 students, our hands are full. The consolidation is a chore, but it's going extremely well. And a beautiful thing for my side is number one, I kept my job. Coming from Perimeter College, and we were able to insert our military outreach program straight into Georgia State downtown. And so where they had a fledgling program is now it's really growing, and it's quite expansive. The school is very supportive of veterans, and we're getting a number of initiatives off the ground right in the midst of the consolidation. So it's a beautiful thing. A few of the things that we're doing, first of all, we do have military outreach centers on all 6 campuses, fully staffed by veterans. And I'll get just at the end, I want to talk about community partnerships and how that was made possible. But we do have outreach centers with face-to-face help and contact for every single military-connected student in the school. Even for our online students, they have a direct contact. We have a Green Zone program. It's not a recycling program. And the Green Zone is just in military speak. It's a safe place, a place to go and get resources, feel protected, feel like you can ask questions and get what you need. So we have a great Green Zone program throughout the school. We've just started it downtown. Just about 30 minutes ago, I received an email saying that our new Green Zone was completed, meaning we had to completely rewrite it because we are now Georgia State, and it was Perimeter College's Green Zone program. So it was just completed, and it will be sent out to all 10,000 employees here very shortly. What that does, it basically just gives an overview of military awareness. Here are some challenges and concerns that military students may be going through. Here's how you can help them, and here are the resources where you can that you can connect them to, including our offices, outside organizations, and so forth. And going back to what Phil said, that's just the key, is to increase the awareness on campus, make the culture that much more military friendly, so that no matter what department a military student goes to, they can receive some understanding and help. So that's what the Green Zone is, and we're getting ready to kick off that new campaign next week. MVP, Mentoring Veterans Program, that is our Perimeter College peer and staff and faculty veteran program, where we pair veterans up with a mentor every semester. And then our new PAVE program. We're the only school in Georgia that has this right now, University of Michigan sponsored program, and it stands for Peer Advising for Veteran Education. And what that does, it takes a seasoned junior, senior, or grad student veteran and pairs them with every new incoming veteran to the college. And we've just started our 2nd semester with this. Again, a beautiful thing, because you can imagine you're transitioning from a very structured environment to one of non-structure. Where do I go? What do I do? You're a big boy now. Go find it yourself. Well, you're a veteran, and you've just lost all of your friends and family of the military, and you're on a campus, don't know where to go, what to do, may not know how to study, and you're 27 years old. Well, we pair you with another veteran who has already been successful on campus. And so that's going very well, and again, we're in our 2nd semester of that. And finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about corporate or outside partnerships. It takes the community coming together. One thing we pride ourselves in at Georgia State is connecting with the community. And whatever resources or people are out there to help our veterans, we touch them. We allow them to help us. For instance, Marcus Foundation has been huge in supporting our veterans, as they funded half of the staff salaries for getting us started at Perimeter, along with 20 scholarships a year, a Veterans Emergency Fund, which is almost unheard of. We have a veteran has an emergency, we're able to go in and assist them immediately, no very few questions. Just help them out, keep them in school. So again, just being partners with the community when it's very sexy and vogue now to say that you're veteran friendly. Well, what does that mean? Well, we know what we need here at Georgia State, so we tell them what we need, and the community comes together to support that. So again, thank you for everything you're doing for our military and for our veterans, and I'm open to any questions.
Yes, sir. On your Veterans Emergency Fund,
Yes, sir.
give me some examples of how that works.
Okay, I'll give you a couple of examples. One typical, one atypical. Maybe their benefits have not come in yet through either a fault of their own or the VA's. They didn't file the paperwork in time. School starts tomorrow and they don't have books. So we'll go buy them their books and they can either pay us back, bring us the books, what have you. Now we have a lending library. So that's a typical situation. An unusual one was we had an honor student where she was doing exceptionally well in school, broke her front tooth halfway off. And she wouldn't come back to school for a week. Didn't know why she wasn't coming back. $1,600 later, we got her tooth fixed because she had no insurance, no way to pay for it, but she was so embarrassed. So, and she's still an honor student. So those are just examples of how we try to help the students.
And who's funding that?
Marcus Foundation.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate you, especially Mr. Isaac. You do not have a base located at Georgia State, but yet you've done this, and I really appreciate that. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairman Belton and committee members. I'm Ted Barco. I'm the director of the Student Veterans Resource Center at the University of Georgia. I wanted to take a minute and give you a sense of our mission, give you a sense of some of our signature initiatives that we have in place and the partnerships, just like the other schools, that we rely on to make all this happen. Our mission is to be the go-to location for sense-making, wayfinding, and right placing at the university, while also providing all kind of different support to our student veterans as well as advocacy. We can't do that alone. We're an office of one full-time staff, plus some graduate assistants and some VA work-study folks. So we partnered literally with the entire university, the community, and corporations around the state as well as the country. I'm going to walk you through two signature initiatives, and they've really blended well together this particular year. We put these in place last year in terms of just kicking around the ideas, and they're one of the things that I think led us to being selected as the top Tier 1 university in the nation for student support. The first one is easing the transition of the student coming into Georgia. We have a person in admissions that we partner with that works with them to identify them and then set up the glide slope for them to come into the university. They then hand that student off to us. We reach out to them before orientation. We have a very specific and tailored student veterans orientation class. We bring in the student veterans as well as faculty and staff from the university to meet with them. Sometimes, for example, the faculty may be veterans themselves. We have a former Green Beret in Vietnam that works very closely with the students during orientation. He's also a PhD from Yale. Once the orientation is over, we have a program called Transition Coaching. Our faculty and staff across the university and all colleges and schools connect with our student veterans to spend one semester with them to get them acclimated to the university and all the different support services there. We have about almost 100% of the student veterans sign up for that. About 90% actually follow up and engage in it. Very, very successful. Now, in the old days, which was a year ago, after the transition ended, we often lost those student veterans. They acclimated very well. Then the only time we would see them was when a problem arose. We were very reactive, and we wanted to be very proactive. So starting over the summer, actually the end of last fall or last spring, we envisioned something called a readiness program. And so my two graduate assistants, one of which is a second-year MBA, the other is a master's in international policy, one Air Force, one Army. We both got together and envisioned this readiness idea. When a student now comes off the transition program, so they've worked with the faculty or staff for that first semester, they are then handed off to a graduate assistant. The graduate assistant then works with them to talk about, first, what are your career goals? Second, let's look at your resume. Is it something that came out of maybe the TAP program that might have been 3 or 4 pages based on being a diesel mechanic, but now you're really a finance major? And if so, let's start working that resume down where it's probably going to be 1 page now and much more impactful. From there, we start looking at branding. As you start shifting from your military career to a new career, does the resume follow? And if it doesn't, we start suggesting things like, let's look at clubs specific to your profession. Let's look at these internships, these work studies, these study abroads. One of the great lines I was told by a combat soldier in Afghanistan before UGA went to experiential learning as a requirement was, I did my internship and study abroad in Afghanistan. Yes, but it's not relevant to what we're doing today, except in terms of the great leadership you gained. So the GAs work this, they facilitate this. When we get to the networking component, they now have a good resume. We hand them off to either one of the national organizations like American Corporate Partners, which partners our veterans with Fortune 500 executives in similar career fields. We also have faculty and staff across the university. For example, Terry Business College, the dean said, I want every one of my department heads to work with you on this second step of the program, the readiness program. And increasingly, we're getting the other schools and colleges to come along. I just got an email this morning where 2 of our professors in accounting are now going to be working with 2 of our young vets in that latter half of the readiness program. So that gets them in the door through transition. It gets them ready to go out the door in terms of readiness. We have one enabling function that's very important to us at the university. We recognized about 18 months ago there were certain things that I couldn't do at the university. So we created a Veteran Success Council. It's co-chaired by 2 senior administrators. We have 25 senior faculty and staff around the table, and we tee up issues that are hurdles to our veterans. The one that comes to mind was priority registration. Our veterans weren't able to get the classes they needed when they needed to get them to graduate on time and consistent with their benefits. After we teed that up, it was unanimously approved and it was passed. So coming into the fall of 16, all of our student veterans were able to get priority registration. Huge accomplishment, widely recognized by them as an important one. That concludes my formal remarks. I'll be happy to talk to you now or later to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee? Thank you, Chairman Smith.
Sir. Before you run off, that last part about priority registration, how have you promoted that? Like with the Department of the Army or whoever, because these kind of programs, to me, exemplify why Georgia is friendly to the military. And these are the kind of programs that need to be brought to the Department of Army or whoever's knowledge, so that they know that these are the kind of things, part of a packet that could be developed to, when we address the military branch. Have y'all done anything like that to promote it?
We have not, sir. It is increasingly common for states themselves to promote that. For example, Florida has priority registration, and California, some of the other ones. We had 2 objectives in doing this. One was to enable the students to gain priority registration to get the classes they needed. But the second objective was for students to self-identify. So if we have a veteran flying below the radar, doesn't want to get involved, all of a sudden now they'll come into the office and say, hey, look, what's the story on priority registration? I've heard it's available to us, and then we can connect them. So it's served both purposes for us, and we've been promoting it within the university, but we have not done so outside the university per se, except the work
I
that
think the reason I ask that is because everybody keeps talking about BRAC, and it potentially could be devastating. Who knows? But also as part of that, as far as Georgia being recognized as a military-friendly state, whether California and Florida is doing it or not, that doesn't really matter, just as long as they know we're also offering that particular program for the benefit of the military.
Yes, sir.
And Chairman, that's an excellent point. One of the huge points of this, of y'all being here and this whole committee, is to tell the nation, tell the Pentagon, no, Georgia does want your military folks. We are military friendly, and I think y'all have just taken the first 2 or 3 steps and actually doing a good job. And it's up to us and the rest of the system to tell the Pentagon and also tell the widespread. Let's get the message out there that we are a military friendly state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we're going to hear from Kimberly Burgess from College of Coastal Georgia, but I did want to quickly address that. We do have information sheets that we distribute to congressional representatives. I was in D.C. a couple weeks ago, all the base education offices, as well as garrison commanders. We try to spread that word as we implement these policies and these initiatives. Yes, sir.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good.
I'm the shortest and obviously the only female talking today, so I'm pretty excited. Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Burgess, and I'm here today representing the College of Coastal Georgia. The College of Coastal Georgia, as some of you may know, is the fastest growing college in the university system of Georgia, and the growth of our military student population has significantly contributed to the overall growth of the college. Since 2013, we have seen our military student population increase from 230 military-affiliated students to 523. That means that 1 in 6 students on our campus is somehow affiliated with the military, which is significant. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 3 military initiatives we believe contributed to that overall growth. The first one is the formation of the President's Advisory Council. The Advisory Council oversees and approves all military-related college initiatives, including programming and events, academic regulations and changes, community outreach, and partnerships to help the military student population. The committee consists of staff members from academic affairs, enrollment management, and student affairs. It also includes faculty members from multiple disciplines and the president and vice president of our veteran student organization. It has been responsible for implementing over 30 military-friendly initiatives since 2013. Second, the implementation of our military tracking program. The military tracking program was established to capture military students through a self-identification process at the time of application to the college. It allows the college to track military students from the time of application to graduation. This is a collaborative process developed with our Institutional Effectiveness Office and the Office of Admissions, and internal reporting programs that we use include Banner and Argos. And finally, we just established a military-friendly enrollment process. The President's Advisory Council implemented 3 changes to this process. First, the council established a point of contact for admissions and enrollment, housed in the Office of Admissions and placed there to assist military personnel and their families through the admissions process, and that person is me. Second, the Office of Admission, we waive the application fee for all veterans and active duty military members. And finally, the college provides priority registration for veterans and active duty military members each semester, and this enrollment process allows for the military personnel to transition through the college enrollment process smoothly. So those are the top 3 of the 30 that we've implemented, and now I open it for any questions that you have for me.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just curious, at College of Coastal Georgia, geographically, where are you getting your veterans from?
We are seeing a large portion of our veterans come from the Camden area because we have a satellite campus in Camden. Our enrollment there has increased steadily, but we're also getting individuals from the Hinesville Liberty campus that are driving down. So we stay in the South Georgia area and are now even getting dependents from our Jacksonville, Florida area as well.
Thank you.
Chairman Smith.
Is there any coordination between the various schools within the university system to have a coordinating council between all the universities or schools in the system so that, North Georgia could see what y'all are doing, or Columbus State could see what Georgia Tech's doing, or whoever, to have a coordinated effort with the through the university system?
Yes, we are actively pursuing that. We've been trying to get everyone together. Dr. Snow has been really great at major conferences, getting us together to talk about different initiatives. I myself have opened the door and actually had people visit our campus because we've done so much establishing lounges and priority registration, and just invited them to campus to say, let me sit down and talk with you. So yeah, absolutely. We are working towards that. We have not had an actual conference per se to get together, but we definitely need it, and we openly communicate. We're all friends and colleagues, and we talk and provide guidance.
And Dr. Stone, that's basically what you do for a living, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. What we do is we try to facilitate these. We have what we also call regional clusters. Like, where's my North Georgia cluster? We have 10 schools. A couple times a year, they'll get together. Georgia Highlands might host it, UGA might host it, and kind of best practices, share ideas. And then we piggyback whenever we have, traditionally, the Georgia Summit in Augusta, Adult Learning Consortium maybe in Savannah. This past fall, we had the Southeastern Council of Military Educators have a lot of our schools here. We pull our people aside, we get together, share ideas, talk about common issues, challenges that we may be facing. So we do that sometimes as formal parts of structures of other meetings, sometimes just as targets of opportunity as well. Yes, sir.
Do you have another question, sir?
Yes, sir. Have y'all contacted the Board of Regents as far as facilitating something like this? Because we've got a really large military contingent in this state. And I was just wondering if maybe the Chancellor or the Chairman of the Board of Regents have been involved in this process.
Yes, sir. I am from the Board of Regents, the system office.
Okay.
So we host, like I said, these other sessions. We've had the Soldiers to Scholars meetings. So we try to facilitate those regionally, either with small groupings of campuses or larger in conjunction with these other BOR hosted events.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
If I'd have got here earlier, I may have known that, wouldn't I?
Okay, we got 5 more minutes for the University System of Georgia, and then go on to the technical colleges. Very quickly, Representative Clanton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question, and either one of you can answer this, is there an age limit to the Soldiers to Scholars program or any program that's out there? Because some veterans get out and it's several years before they have the ability to actually go back to school. Is there an age limit or time limit?
No, sir. As far as the state and the Board of Regents, the system office, there isn't an age requirement as far as their enrollment into our academic institutions. That said, the VA there is a expiration date on perhaps their VA educational benefits last March. To help address that, our current policy for the University System of Georgia is, that out of state is waived to address that for VA educational benefits within 10 years of separation. So if somebody gets out, they're working for a defense contractor, perhaps they lose their job, and then they decide there's this great master's program at Georgia Tech that I want to go to, but I've been out 6 years, they can come there. We're not going to charge them out of state for that. They're using their VA to go to school. So we try to be as military friendly as possible, and the Chancellor, for as long as I've been here, that's been a primary focus of ours, trying to serve that population. And we don't have an age requirement, and we welcome them to come here. If they want to go to school here, we want them to go to school here because our workforce and our state needs them.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And the second part of that question is understanding that sometimes the VA benefits will expire in regards to education. Is there anything else out there? Are there endowments or are there programs that military veterans could apply for and be approved to continue their education, even if their VA education benefits
Yes, sir.
expire?
There are some state programs with like the National Guard, et cetera. The beauty of that is if that student is utilizing VA educational benefits, whether it's Montgomery GI Bill, post 9/11, vocational rehab, if it's a VA educational benefit and they come here and they're a student and that expires, they continue as the in-state rate. We're not going to suddenly say, sorry, you're out of benefits, now you're out of state. So that helps as far as continuing at that more affordable rate than the out-of-state. That said, we don't necessarily have that, but some schools have those additional funds they've set aside. I know ABAC, for example, has set aside a military initiative where I think last year they raised a pretty substantial amount to help with veterans scholarships when those benefits perhaps do expire.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Hello, I'm David Barron, the Associate Vice President for Enrollment at Augusta University. Thank you for the time for letting me share some exciting news, what Augusta University is doing for our veteran population and partnering with the DoD to support our active duty personnel. Like many of the other colleges, we have dedicated services for our veterans, including lounge place, mentoring, tutoring services as well, computer services that are utilized very richly by our population, and dedicated personnel, full-time personnel to assist them in transition. Part of our success, I think, with our veterans is seen in our recognition. Again, this year we were voted for Best Vets by College and Military Times. Now, because we are a research institution at Augusta University, for the past 5 years, we've been recognized as by Military Advanced Education as the best place for vets for the past 5 years because our graduate and professional programs as well. We also have the last 2 Pat Tillman Scholars that are attending our university, 2015 and 2016, in our physician assistants and chemistry and molecular biology programs. Now, with Augusta University, our partnership with the Fort Gordon and the DoD is not just with our veterans, but partnering with them to be successful in their own mission. One thing that we've done, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned K through 12 initiatives. For the past 2 years, Augusta University has partnered with Fort Gordon, and we've developed through our College of Education a cyber curriculum to start in the high school. So from freshman, sophomore, junior, senior school, a curriculum, and we've actually trained the high school instructors on this curriculum. They've been offering this for the past 2 years in the high schools in the big picture vision of developing a workforce for our cyber initiatives in the region. So we've been working with them. We have cyber camps for high schoolers in the summer as well to generate that interest and that desire to learn more about cyber, but not just for them, for the high school educators as well, because the teachers weren't schooled on this while they were going through education, so we need to educate them on this as well. And so we have summer programs for the high school instructors as well for cyber. So the College of Education has been very involved with that. With our mission as a hospital and public education and public health system as well, our initiative in helping veterans also goes through healthcare, through our physicians helping with veterans in their care through the VA as well, and veteran services that we have, both physical and psychological services for helping treating them for a better life as well. Another piece that I've been personally involved in is partnering with the DoD and NSA for a degree completion initiative for their active duty personnel. This is part not only just to help them receive education, but to help the DoD and NSA keep skilled employees working in their areas. We have people that are trained on specific language and linguists and analysts that they need to retain, and for providing access to them to complete their education while they're working provides a more sustainable workforce for them for the long term so that they can be successful in their mission, which is defending our great nation. So it's that collaborative partnership, not to mention the wonderful, wonderful Cyber Center of Excellence that's coming to Augusta University soon, that we can promote that cyber initiative and move our cyber center there and move our MIS program with our new MIS or MS program in information management with certificates in cybersecurity so that we can train that workforce as well. Just great opportunity, I think, in collaborative partnership with the DoD, the NSA, and Fort Gordon, thinking outside the box to make those things happen. In fact, with our degree completion program through the DoD, they're looking at making that a national model at all their other facilities based on the work that we've done with them. So great opportunity for us in Augusta.
Thank you very much. Any questions very briefly? Okay, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. We're pretty much on time here, so we'll continue on with the Robert Cowan of the Technical College System of Georgia.
Thank you, sir. And of course, as the Technical College System, I'm going to see if I can bring up a PowerPoint presentation to kind of keep us on track as well. But as that's coming up, I am Dr. Snow's counterpart from the TCSG side of the house. And so with being from the Technical College System, we are, I don't know if it's going to come up over there or not. If not, that's why we have the talking paper. It's very technical, it is. And you should have a copy inside your packet, Plan A, Plan B, so we're always ready for that. And I'll get the presentation up. That way, if it does come up, we'll have it. That's okay. We can.
If you don't mind, just continue.
We will
on.
continue. Not
Thank
a
you.
problem. There's always a paper copy that always works well.
Exactly right. Thank you, sir.
We are made up of 22 colleges throughout the state of Georgia. And just to kind of give you some numbers, our annual enrollment for the academic year 2017 was 119, a little over 119,000. Of that, 7,000 were active duty and or veterans and or dependents of military veterans. Now, when I got a chance to speak with Chairman Belton asking about this presentation and so forth, I went back, I should say, and looked at the Military Times criteria that they used to gauge the best of. And I tried to break that down into saying, okay, how are all of our schools meeting this? And so I broke that down. Basically, they had 4 key factors. It was affordability, support, value, and success. So I went back and looked at all of our schools and what do we do across our entire system. Of course, now you're getting ready to hear from some of the best of the best, but as a system as a whole, we are approaching the affordability. Of course, tuition is very reasonable. Everybody knows about the Hope Grant scholarships. The foundation scholarships are in place at some of our schools, and we have some at the system level. We have certain waivers for the Purple Heart recipients, Bronze Stars, exemptions, kind of to Dr. Snow's point earlier about the out-of-state tuition. We make sure that we're doing whatever is best for that military student. Prior learning assessment, military credit. trying to give them credit for everything that they've already been learned on. Listen to me, I'm talking Southern now. What they've already had experience from and in with the military, and also looking at ways to save costs. Students as a whole, but this does impact the military individual. Open educational resources. Textbooks get expensive, so we try to go in and find ways of saving them money however we can. So we look for open educational resources. We can provide that material to them, save them on the cost. And of course, something that as Georgia we're proud of, the Move On When Ready initiative, which goes down to the dependent level as well. You get into the support side of the house, we have highly qualified subject matter experts. We have at all of our institutions, we have direct support. We have military affairs, VA certifying officials, financial aid, academic advisors. One thing that in the technical college system that we're proud of, we also have standardized curriculum. So if you have to pick up and port, no matter what school you go to, that curriculum is the same. It's being taught throughout all of our colleges, unless it's a locally devised for a local company in that area. We also have what's called TEAMS, which is an early alert system. So if you have someone who's at risk of stepping out for any reasons, they're tracking them, we can catch them, intervene in time, and try to ensure that they don't have to step out of their program for any reason. Career services and job placement, that's what we're about. We're there to help them get a job. And then, as it was mentioned earlier, Dr. Snow, I think, or one of the other individuals mentioned green zone training. We feel that that's very, very necessary, that communication, that collaborative effort of making that military person feel wanted on campus. And actually, we have what's called green zone stickers. And if a faculty or a staff member goes through that training, they put this outside their door. So that way it's kind of a, hey, this is a safe zone. Some of our schools actually issue pins, and they can look and immediately recognize, okay, I can talk to that individual. They've been there, done that. They understand where I'm coming from. And so value, and I won't go through all of this. Of course, they talked about their accreditor. We're all SAC COC accredited, and making investments in our in our facilities. And then a couple of unique resources I think that is something to be proud of is our college and career academies, and of course our flagship, the Vector Center, that is a very unique resource, and we'll be speaking to that later on. So with that, I would like to go ahead and introduce, we'll have them come up and speak to you. And I'll just go ahead and introduce all of them here, and then they'll come up. We've got Command Sergeant Major retired Jeff Ashman from Savannah Tech, which was the #1 school from the military times. We have a Master Sergeant retired Tabora Temple, who will be speaking for Wiregrass. We have Mr. Travis Simpson, who will be coming up and speaking for Gwinnett Technical College. And then Senior Master Sergeant retired Dan Webb, who will be coming up and addressing you from Central Georgia. And we'll take questions at any time.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members. Before I get started on a brief, I just have a real quick short story. Right after the public announcement of the Best for Vets results, we received an email of congratulations from one of our local leaders. And I think Dr. Love's response really sums up why we are all here. When she said, just like it takes a village to raise a child, it does take a community of support for a college's success. The surveys not only looked physically at what we were doing, but they also looked at outcomes. When you look at persistence and graduation, that's really about students and faculty who are focused on success. When you look at the low loan default rate, that gets to our military service members, spouses, and their dependents being eligible for HOPE, and also those local grants that we receive from our local donors that help offset the out-of-pocket expenses for our military-affiliated students. So we certainly would not be successful without those supports. With that, I want to move into the slides. 1 in 4 of our students are military affiliated. We do have the largest population within TCSG. We just recently had a new designation that we picked up on Thursday. Didn't even know it was out there, but that is the spouse school, military friendly. I came on to college about 3.5 years ago. We talked a little bit already about that green zone training, but with our service area being home to the 3rd Infantry Division, that is extremely important to us and to our faculty, to make sure that our faculty understands the challenges that our soldiers and their families face today, especially with the amount of deployments that they have, and a lot more certainly upcoming. We did take advantage of VA that provides free funding for our VA work studies, and so we utilize them to help assist us in our vet center. A lot of colleges take advantage of credit courses, but we went to VA and we talked to them about some of our non-credit courses. We've got a lot of those that are beneficial, that can help, especially when you can tie it to job placement, forklift training, OSHA training, airframe and power plant refresher courses to help our aviation maintenance guys get their A&P license. And so we went to VA with those. There's some additional steps to get that done, but we took those steps, and so that has been beneficial to us and to our military-affiliated students. We are the only public Georgia college in the Army Education Center. We went in and looked at the labs that they had when the Army Education Center was built that were had all the equipment but were not being utilized as labs. We went in there and got those labs up and running to be able to offer biology and chemistry classes. That's not only beneficial to our students, but beneficial to a lot of those students who need a transfer credit or two in order to transfer back to another college in order to complete their requirements for graduation. We offer a lot in the Army Education Center as far as free services go. The C2RE program, which provides free training. It's a 6-week training program to help our service members prepare to retake their ASVAB tests. This is beneficial for them, especially when they're in the re-enlistment window, to help them qualify for other jobs so that they can look at moving around within the services. We offer English as a second language. We do have a lot of spouses. Soldiers overseas marry and bring a spouse back, and English as a second language. They need support with that, and so we provide that free in the Army Ed Center. We do take advantage of all the admission advantages that were discussed, but one I would like to really highlight is the two down at the bottom, and this was mentioned earlier. What kind of funds are available locally to help our veterans? We have two. One is the Landings Military Family Relief Fund, which is gap funding for MyCAA students. The other one is our Freedom Fund, and our Freedom Fund does 4 things. One, it provides books for our active duty service members. It also provides funding for our veterans who are receiving less than 100% of benefits. So if I have not served at least 3 years in service and I separate for, say, let's say a medical discharge, I'm going to get something less than 100%. This fund steps in and provides gap funding to bring them to 100% of their tuition and fees, just as though they had served 3 years in service. We also provide funding for our veterans, especially our older veterans who have run out of benefits. We see this quite often with our Vietnam veterans that come to us. They need a little bit of retooling, maybe a computer class or something like that, and they need some help. And so we can provide funding for them for that as well. Oh, and it also provides fees for our active duty spouses. Career Skills Program, this is a new initiative. This is to help our active duty service members who are about ready to separate from service to get retooled prior to going out into the workforce. This is an opportunity 6 months prior to separation. Their full-time place of duty becomes a classroom where we're currently teaching our welding program. We're going to kick that off on the 13th of March. We're also in discussion of bringing other CDL programs online, aviation, commercial truck driving, and a few others. We do participate in a lot on the installation with community showcases, strategic planning sessions, career fairs, whole host of a list there. Youth Challenge. We support the Youth Challenge. They have 2 programs there. One is for those coming into the Youth Challenge program. We provide GED support and testing. We're also looking at dual enrollment. Our GED students in our main campus have an opportunity to, while they're going through their GED program, to also enroll in one of our college programs, and we're looking to extend that to the Youth Academy. The Youth Academy has a second step called the Youth Challenge Academy. 1 month after they complete the Youth Challenge, they come back to the Job Academy, and we work with the Youth Challenge folks to provide training for those students to get them a certification so that they can go out and get a job. Sir, subject to your questions, that concludes my brief.
Any questions very briefly from the committee? Thank you very much. Really, you should be very proud of the accomplishment.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and other committee members. I'm Tabora Temple from Wiregrass Georgia Technical College. I'd like to talk with you all today about our successes, what we're doing right, and possibly implementing some of our successes in the K-12 environment. So how did we increase our enrollment? Being prior military, I decided we needed to actually define what a Wiregrass veteran truly means. And what I found is there were a lot of students that have attended our school, but they were veterans. Of course, their discharge was other than honorable. So what I said is, to be a Wiregrass veteran, if you served one day, regardless of discharge type, you were a Wiregrass veteran, and you are a Wiregrass veteran, as well as your spouse and your dependents. We also, increased my presence in orientation. Before, we never had a military point of contact, so now they can actually put me a face, name to my face to the name, and identify me. And like I said, I just want to try to welcome all of the veterans to our school. I also go to the community outreach with events and recruiting with Department of Labor, and we also partner with Moody Air Force Base. Anyone that's been in the military and you travel and you go on deployments, the first thing we look for is a USO. So that's why we implemented our Veterans Lounge. It has a USO type feel. You can come drink some coffee, eat a snack, watch TV. We also have our Green Zone located there in our Veterans Lounge. And our Veterans Lounge is used quite often. We see a lot of our military students, and it's not, PTSD and TBI is not military specific. I'm there for them. I partner with our special populations. So therefore, we also, like I said, when I partner with special populations, we can offer them special accommodations for their classes, whether it's preferential seating, extra testing time, or for some students, they can actually come down to Veterans Lounge and complete their classes there. My only requirement is, for our Green Zone, is if you have to get back to class, just let me know what time I need to wake you up and get you back there. As you see, some of those are our numbers there at the bottom. We just started tracking our Veterans Lounge participation. As you see, they've increased every month since we've tracked. And the 172 was just for the half of the month of January. And that doesn't include walk-ins and all of that. And it's just me. I'm the one person for 4 campuses, and I have one person working at our satellite clinic. At our satellite office there on Moody Air Force Base. At Wiregrass, we look at the whole person concept. I know we have transitioning veterans. So a lot of them are concerned about, I'm used to wearing my uniform all day, and now I'm a full-time student or a part-time student and a part-time worker. So every veteran that comes in will meet with me one-on-one. I will get, of course, let them know about our resources that we have at the school as well as within our community. Each person that comes in receives one of my veteran guides, and it's a step-by-step document that lets them know what they need to do at any time during the school process. To better assist our veterans, we have a veteran support after hours, which this is more singleized orientation for all of our veteran students. And at those events, we have the VA, we have our career services from within the school, of course, our special populations, and any other programs that would like to be represented in that area. I try to focus on their mind, body, and soul. I cannot cure everyone, but I can sure help you try to minimize, the issues of your PTSD, TBI. So I've partnered with the base psychologist on Moody Air Force Base. He's their PTSD, TBI psychiatrist. But what we're taught in the military is sometimes shut up and color. So a lot of our military people were never treated for those things while they were in the military. So I'm hoping that I'm that bridge for them to say, hey, I'm okay. But the training that we do, it's more personalized. And we don't name them PTSD briefing, TBI, schizophrenia, or anything like that. we call them relaxation, memorization. We're trying to get a yoga person to come in and help them, connect the two, the mind and the body. For our military people that are stationed out at Moody Air Force Base, we're looking at the career-oriented approach for them. We are the only college that has the general education mobile in our technical college system. And what that is pretty much the core classes that we'll teach. And what we found is we weren't having many participants. So we fine-tuned that program into a fast-track program. And it's a 5-week program. You start a new class every 5 weeks, and within 2 semesters, our military will receive their CCAF degree. And we also ask them to submit their Air Force transcripts to see if we can also offer them any other certificates, diplomas, or potentially another degree. Since we started the fast track program fall of last year, we're up to a total of 74 participants, which is pretty good considering that our class level at Moody was pretty much non-existent, but we've now revived it, and it's thriving.
What is CCAF? I'm sorry.
Community College of the Air Force degree.
Yeah.
It's what every Air Force member will receive at a certain time in their career. Yes, sir. Okay, and also we work with the Airmen and Family Readiness Center. While the service members deployed, we come in and we offer courses for the spouses in finances, Microsoft Office Suite, and we also in car care. And last year we actually offered the ropes training, which is a team building exercise. And what we found is the ones that showed up were the ones that, this is after the reintegration process, and it gave those families a chance to kind of get, regroup and get to know each other again, because you couldn't get from point A and point B without everyone coming together as one. Also at Moody Air Force Base, we have our Moody Satellite Office, which has one of the Air Force testing centers. We offer CLEPS and Dante's, Accuplacer, and pretty much any other test that you may need. We were recently identified as one of the top 25 testing centers in the nation. We average 60 tests per week, and we average 250 walk-ins monthly. How can these successes benefit you? Define your meaning of a student. Designate a safe place for them. Focus on the student, not the disorder, and develop short-term programs that build self-esteem. I could not have done everything that I've accomplished in the last year and a half that I've been in this job without the help and just the camaraderie that I have with Dr. Anderson and my supervisor, Angela Hobby. They've given me the flexibility to pretty much do what I needed to do to increase our veteran population. That's all I have, and if you have any questions.
That's very impressive. I'm just curious, do you think you could do is it possible in a K-12 situation to do like a summer camp, a pre-summer camp for military children, like this ropes thing? Would that be something you would envision that would work?
Well, I do, and that's what we're working on now with Moody Air Force Base. We actually have the ropes training scheduled, and we also have Camp Timber, which is a STEM-focused training, camp for the military students. And pretty much everything that we offer at the college for community students, we're also going to put out on base.
Yeah.
So, because just like last year, they had camps, but the military weren't able to go because, I understand they have their own planning. So we've increased that this year by moving it on base as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry for the nerves.
It's fine. Hey, great.
Good afternoon. My name is Travis Simpson. I'm the coordinator of the VA office here at Gwinnett Technical College. I want to start by saying that we were actually the first technical college to implement a designated VA office for our students. So what this means is our VA students can come in and work as a one-stop to receive their benefits. They can receive assistance from the application process all the way through graduation, as well as getting a job and job placement. We have 4 full-time staff members in our office. Me, the coordinator, I have the easy job. I just make sure everything's running smoothly, as well as look at our participant rates, as well as our graduation rates, and make sure that our students are being successful. We have a veterans advocate, which essentially works with our students in making sure that they're connected with all the resources that we have on campus as well as outside of campus in our community resources. These are job fairs, this is academic support, financial needs, and they're a go-to in that sense. We have a financial aid specialist which works with our students so they're maximizing their benefits. So they know how maybe the HOPE or the PELC will work with their VA benefits as well. Then we have administrative assistant, and she makes sure that she does one-on-one with all of our students. She makes sure that all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed, so our students are receiving their benefits. They receive it on time, as long as they get the paperwork in, as well as making sure they understand what they're going to receive from the VA benefits. We also employ our students, veterans, as work study. They work in our dedicated veterans lab, which you'll have pictures of later, as well as in our office. And I have to mention about Scott Hudgens Family Foundation. Marcus Foundation has been great in those efforts. So I want to talk a little bit about some of our financial resources. We do have veteran scholarships that will help the veteran student that comes in is maybe halfway through their program, and then they run out of the veteran benefits. Or as I mentioned before, if they're at 80% or 90%, we bridge that gap. We pay the difference, and this doesn't. This is not a barrier for veteran students to get the education that they deserve. We do have emergency services as well. This would be home issues, they may have utility issues, anything like that, utility bills that come up where they can apply for us to help them out in those emergency assistance as well. Anything, we don't want any financial issues getting in the way of their education. We are active participant in the Yellow Ribbon Program, which helps our out-of-state students, as well as a newly implemented program called Text for Troops. This is a program where some of our students, we found via using surveys that some were going into the classroom without their textbooks due to paperwork, especially in the first semester. There's a lot of paperwork. It may have come in late and processing times. So we provide resources for them. So they're coming into the classroom day one with their resources that they need so they can be successful. Of course, we're always partnering with our community resources, other nonprofits, and connecting our veterans with them as we collaborate. Student success obviously is at the top of the list for us. We want to make sure our students are successful. We do job fairs, resume writing, and this picture is actually our last workshop that we had, where we have representatives come in and teach some of the veterans on transitioning their resumes from maybe the military to civilian life. As well as we have a dedicated computer lab, as I mentioned before. We do use our early alert system, so we're catching our students that may be struggling earlier in the semester and not later when it could affect their VA benefits or other financial aid that they may be using. We use that early alert center to connect our veterans with our LSC, our Learning Success Center, our tutors, our STEM labs, all of our academic resources we have on campus. One thing that we do offer are information sessions for all of our potential veteran students. This essentially is a mini orientation for our students to come in, learn the process, understand what documents they need, understand what benefits they're going to receive, and we do this in our lab as well. Student engagement is very important. Of course, student success and student engagement are directly tied to each other. So we do have an SVO where we get our veterans involved in the community and projects and working with other partnerships. We do veterans event. This past Veterans Day, we actually had Master Sergeant Cedric King come in and talk to not only our veterans, but our full student body, our faculty, staff, community members, anybody that wanted to come in here and hear his amazing story. We participate in Toys for Tots. We do classroom cadence. This is professional development for all of our faculty and staff. So they're trained in understanding what veterans bring to the classroom and maybe some issues in the transition that they may run into. This is similar to our Green Zone. Wellness Wednesdays are specifically for our veteran students. Bring them in once a month. They can just get just wellness techniques, whether it's health-wise, financial, whatever may be the case. And lastly, I just want to mention, of course, professional development is very important for us. So we are a part of GAVCO, NAVCA. We're always collaborating with TCSG. Of course, 22 heads are better than one. So our veteran resources and our local vet centers, we're definitely working with them constantly. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dan Webb from Central Georgia Tech. And as the last in the technical college system, I'm going to be the most brief.
Okay.
Because the one thing I think I'm most impressed with the technical college system is we collaborate. So I'm only going to tell you the things that I think are unique to us, because I have no problem going to these other great schools and stealing what they do. And I give them credit if they want credit.
Exactly,
I don't
thank
really
you.
care. So with Central Georgia Tech, I'm tasked with one job, according to my president: help the veteran. It may be college, it may not be. It may be job, it may not be. It may not have to do anything with that. It may be that they want something at another school. It may be they want something at the university system. I don't really care. I just want to help the veteran. We've increased enrollment substantially as far as military identified individuals. And the reason we have, some of it has to do, and probably most of it has to do, with identifying them. We didn't do a very good job of identifying. We'd ask for them on their applications, and some would put down that they were, and some would not. But then we looked at, look, you have no military affiliation, but you're using the GI Bill. Maybe we should call you. And they didn't, because they didn't want special treatment. But that helped once they found out what they could do. Again, we're very pleased to be Best for Vets this year, granted 24. Military advanced education again, and military friendly again. That's important, but what's probably more important is what you had said earlier, Mr. Chairman, is that veterans care about education. So I think the one thing that we do really good is we care. And in this case, it's an acronym, because, you know, you can't be military without an acronym. It's counseling, advising, retention, and evaluation. And that's what that office does. So there's somebody that meets with them, and you'll see at the bottom of there, it says first-time advisors. Granted, there's an orientation, and there's one that's unique to veterans. But they have their first-time advisor meets with them and goes over from your end goal, what's your end goal, to where are you at now, and how do we take you down that road? And sometimes there's detours, and that's okay. You just have to make adjustments. So it's that one-on-one relationship that they build, and suddenly this isn't an office anymore. This is, back to the first one, someone that cares. We do have one thing that's unusual. We have a grant at Central Georgia Tech that pays for commercial truck driving, all the tuition and fees, which is great if they take it with us. That's fabulous. And we get a lot of VFW, veteran scholarships. The one thing I think we're really blessed at Central is we're in Warner Robins, and I get to have my office in the Vector Center. That's all the resources in the world. That's just wonderful. So we're kind of blessed that y'all guys can call. But that's really the biggest thing for me, is being down there and caring. So once you hand walk that student through their needs, then that takes care of that. The other example might be, for instance, Robins Air Force Base recently said, our child care workers by 2020 have to have an associate degree in early childhood, and they don't. Not a problem. We put all those transcripts together, and we're coming up with something to where they can work as a cohort to get their associate degree done by 2020. That's all I have. Is there any questions of me? Oh, I said this.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question's really for all of the schools that are represented here. I've heard a lot, and it's been enjoyable indeed, and it sounds like to me you don't need anything, but if you can think of something, if you could think, what can this committee do to help you? And we'd like to hear it if it's anything other than money. No, you don't need none of that, but what is it that would help your mission with the veterans?
Anybody?
Well, actually, sir, I think this is a good start, and as me and the chairman got to talk earlier, and I was a trainer at heart in the Air Force, and I use the cliche, steal from the best and give to the rest. We all are in this together, because when it's all said and done, like Dan said, it's about that veteran. But we all have good stuff going on, and if we're in silos, that's a shame on us. But by this right here, I was back here taking notes from you. I've already stolen a bunch of stuff USG's already said, so. But that, I think, this is a great start. The sharing of how it's getting done is very beneficial.
You
So
were
that
Air Force.
communication tool, or, we do that, I think we do that well, and I think, David, I'm going to speak for you, but I know USG does it well, but this, I think, is great that we're able to share across boundaries and say, it's no longer mine and yours, it's about that end student. So,
And we hope to do this again next year as well,
me
with
follow
I
up.
hope even more winners. Representative Williams?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, are you an Air Force veteran?
yes, sir.
Oh, you're the guys that slept in the luxury beds when we were fighting wars. I don't know. Sounds a bit you come on back and talk.
Usually Ramada in while the Army was out in tents, so.
Yeah, we know.
I was in Camp Ramada in Iraq, across from Saddam's hometown. No, sir, one thing that I would like to bring up is there's something that we could do to better help veterans, but our hands are a bit tied. It's not something on a state level, but it's actually the DoD MOU. And I'll give you an example. So we have a commercial truck driving course that I mentioned earlier that we are trying to work to get that as a career skills program. The CDL school has the ability, because they are an institution, they're a school that is not an institution of higher learning, that can actually get in front of separating service members and sell their program to them to go to that school. It takes 6 months of that service member's VA education benefits that he could either give to his family or save for himself for a rainy day. I can't get in front of those same students and tell them, hey, you can use the HOPE grant, you can use the Strategic Industries Workforce to grant, you can use WIOA funds and not spend any of that 6 months of education benefits. But because we are an institution of higher learning, I'm not allowed to get in front of those students. And that is a barrier with the DoD MOU.
Thank you so much. Representative Clark?
Quick question. I believe it. I think Robert, that might be for you. I know when we were down at the Fort Stewart Kings Bay hearing this summer, there was mention of needing in the Kings Bay area, the Camden County area, an extension center of one of our technical colleges. I know that wasn't in this year's budget. Is there going to be an effort to work with, I know Neil's in here too, to work with to get that in the governor's budget next year? So because with the BRAC pending, I think that would be something that we need to really start looking at, is making sure that we have something in that area to preserve that base.
Certainly, it's on our list. The way we do that is we evaluate all of the projects that are submitted to us throughout the state, do that evaluation, and that's certainly one that's up there on the list, so we'll keep trying.
Okay, thank you.
And I've also talked to Secretary Ball, also wants to.
And I do have a follow-up as well.
Go ahead, Representative Clark.
Well, this one would, my next question would be for Dan Webb with Central Georgia Tech. I'm from Warner Robins. I want to brag on Central Georgia Tech a little bit, and the university system. We briefly hit the Vector Center, and just as a representative, okay, there we are. As a representative, I want to thank the university system and the technical college system for getting together and getting that done. I believe it's the first time that there was a collaborative effort like this between the university system and the technical college system. So if you could come and share a little bit briefly, or was this already on the agenda?
It is.
Okay, I just knew that I didn't see it down here on the list, and I knew Central Georgia Tech and mentioned it. So, okay. Well, I'll wait for when the chairman calls her up then.
Okay, very quickly, Representative Williams, do you have one more thing? Very quickly.
Over here. There we go. Back to the tech school for Camden County. You know, this is not the first rodeo ride there. I've been hearing it for a while. BRAC is here. It's vitally important so that we will not have one area of a major base, the only one, that does not have a technical school. We've got to address that. We just passed a budget that's just a little south of $25 billion. To be sure, a sliver could have put a technical college down in Camden County. Or are you waiting on Representative Spencer to take their first base trip? Yeah,
Well, Representative, as you know, we support the recommendations of the governor in his budget, and there is a strategic way that we come up with our project list, and it's certainly one that we've taken a look at, and we'll continue to.
You will go far, sir. You said absolutely nothing, but you said it so well.
All right, with that very wise pronouncement, we'll move on to the next thing on the agenda is Dr. Robin Hines.
Good afternoon. I'm Robin Hines. I'm Georgia's Commissioner for the Military Interstate Compact Commission. And just to briefly tell you a little bit about what that is Georgia, the legislation happened in 2012, and we exist simply to remove barriers for military children as they transition in and out of our state and while they are here. And you know, our job is not to put military children at an advantage, but to remove those barriers and give them at least the same opportunities that all other kids have. And it is very difficult when you consider that military children typically change schools 6 to 9 times throughout their K-12 career, and that makes it very, very difficult. Some of the things that we work on, you know, the goal is to make sure that our military children graduate on time. And so many of the things that we deal with are evaluating transcripts and make sure if a child is coming from Alaska to Georgia, that they have the same opportunities, and there are things that we follow, and the people that do the heavy lifting in our organization are our SLOs. That do such a great job and work with them. Not a whole lot of thing gets up to, my level, but we certainly are willing to help. That, as well as one of the biggest issues that we have, is when people transition into the state and maybe not being able to go to the same school that they feel is most comfortable for their family. And, what we need as military children are concerned are some things that I believe that you guys are addressing, such as school choice. And, that's a very complicated issue, and it's certainly one that I certainly support for our military-based children, those sorts of things. And you have heard over and over again today that a very effective way to help students of any kind is to have that go-to person, that means something, a significant relationship. And I believe that you're making an attempt to address that, and I commend you for that as well, and certainly support that. And many of our installations, we do have those counselors in place, and they're doing great work. And it's not just working with the transition, but it's working with the many deployments that happen in that family that disrupt things, for those children. And basically, in a nutshell, that's all I've got. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Dr. Hines, from what you've heard so far, what takeaways could you have that you think that we could be pushing down to the K-12 level from what we've heard from the USG and TCSG?
Well, just what I just mentioned overall, I think that, having a significant adult in those school systems, that can have a personal relationship with those military children and specifically and intentionally forge that relationship can certainly go a long way, with our military children.
So the counselors, you think, is a good idea?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
that was my number one recommendation as we, discuss this. I
Okay.
just think it's a great deal.
Thank you. Chairman Chairman Smith?
Thank you. A few years ago, we passed legislation that if a child transferred, say, from Idaho here, and they were a junior or senior, and they'd already taken Idaho history, they didn't have to take Georgia history. These kind of programs to benefit the children. If you could list the top 2 or 3 things that you think we could do that would be of the most benefit for military children moving in or once they get here, what would you think they would be?
I've already mentioned those things as well, and that is what we do as the Interstate Compact. We try to, help people evaluate. Now, it's very important what the sending school sends because, receiving schools, it's really illegal and unethical to change transcripts and that sort of thing. And when there's a problem between those two, that's when we step in and make a determination whether that's covered under the compact or not. And most of the time it's education is what the problem is. Educators are rule followers. I mean, they are. And I've also learned, I'm a retired school superintendent from Houston County. I also learned during my time that there really are no transcript police, and you can help people, quite a bit. And so that really has, as we've moved forward, that really hadn't been a big problem once it's been pointed out and addressed, and, and we're able to move people forward when they get so far along into their high school career and that sort of thing. If they can't meet, local board policy to receive a diploma from the school system that they are in, they can step back and use the graduation requirements from the school system that they came from. So, we deal with that. But once again, I think that additional personnel to specifically and intentionally work with relationships of those military children as they transition in and out, and when they work with them when they are in that district, specifically to deal with those multiple deployments and those sorts of things is a big deal.
So there are no credentialing or anything like this that, if you were in Idaho when you came here, any kind of credentialing or requirements that Georgia students have to have that they may or may not have to have in Idaho or wherever they came from to ensure that they do graduate on time?
Yeah, there is credentialing, and a lot of that is in the testing that is required, and that sort of thing. And there's no getting around that. That has to be done. But I think we're doing a good job with that.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Dr. Hines. We're going to go away from the agenda very briefly and let Representative Williams talk about his military licensure bill. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right before I say that, I just wanted to say that it has been good, and thank Dr. Hines and those for bringing us where we are, because the majority of people in this state don't have a clue about the military and its needs. And we fought for years. The military compact came about, and when the governor got it, he took off with it, but it was a long time, even from Governor Perdue. We never got it, and they didn't have a clue. And we had kids, the mayor of Hinesville, Jim Thomas, had to leave his son down in Florida because of some requirements. And Georgia was absolutely the last state in the country to adopt these compacts, and it only cost us $50,000 a year. But we got it now, and we've taken off like a boom. Now, House Bill 245. House Bill 245 is a bill that I've introduced along with the help of many members of this committee who are co-authors, and it's kind of a companion bill. Well, that's a misnomer, but it's to fix something was left out of HB 821 last year. HB 821 eliminated a lot of the cumbersome requirements in licensure, and it simply said that if you were a military spouse, that you could get temporary license until all the paperwork was done and you could finally go to work. This bill, somehow we left teachers out. This bill will include teachers. They will come and they can get a provisional certificate to teach until all of the requirements have been met. We've lost a lot of good professional people because it was so long to go to work in Georgia. The person that inspired the Bill 821 that I introduced last year came to Georgia from Fort Sam Houston in Texas as an RN. After 6 months of waiting to get her license in Georgia, she gave up and went into another career, the career she's still in. We lost a registered nurse. And so this will prevent that, and HB 245 will kind of close the last gap in our licensure bills where we can show that we're truly looking to keep good people in the professions. 35% of the people who re-up in the military service do it based on the condition of their spouse. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I just want to say thank you, Representative Al Williams. You were kind of ahead of the curve, ahead of this whole committee. Last year actually passed that bill, and I hope, again, you'll promulgate that data to your people out there. Any questions for Representative Williams about that from the committee? Okay, next we're going to ask Colonel Trish Ross to appear. I used to work for Colonel Trish Ross. I hope she'll be gentler with me than she was back then.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Belton, and thank you, Representative Clark, for introducing the Vector Center. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's the Georgia Veterans Education Career Transition Resource Center. Thank you, sir. And I hope I give you good news today, because I think the bases are loaded with my university system and my technical college system counterparts. And I'm about to hit a home run for the state of Georgia. We're a joint initiative between both systems. And as Representative Clark said, the first of its kind, not only for the state of Georgia, but in the nation. We've taken both systems, combined what you've heard today, which is the best of both of them, all of the initiatives that you've heard, into one center. That center is dedicated to our transitioning military, our veterans and their families, in the center of the state in Warner Robins, Georgia. And it's also what Governor Deal asked us to be, which is a one-stop shop. So you take the research around veterans and what they need to transition from the military to be successful, not only in academia, which is us helping them to get into higher education, the 28 schools within the university system and the 22 within the technical college system. But the second piece of it is getting into the workforce. We offer accelerated training that helps them get into those high demand careers that the governor's identified, gets them a shorter route to take their military experience and skills to get them into that workforce, get them those certifications quicker. The third piece that we do is we get them community resources wherever they're at in the state of Georgia to help meet those immediate needs, like you've already heard some of our other schools do. But we do that with those community partners. Our numbers itself show that this is needed within the state. We've been open all of 6 months. We've provided almost 6,000 services to over 4,500 veterans and their families in 6 months. We've got key partners in our building. That is why we're a one-stop shop. Georgia Department of Veteran Services has 2 full-time veteran service officers there that do the disability benefits and claims. Georgia Department of Labor is there 4 days a week who do veteran employment. We also work with the VA for vocational rehabilitation counseling. And just this month, we've added the United Way to do their Mission United program to help tie in the 211 network. So when somebody calls, they can get to their network of resources as a veteran and get case management and not just a list of phone numbers they can call. We're also tied in with our local workforce board to help get education and training and that funding as well. So I just want to thank you as a working group, as well as the rest of the General Assembly in creating the Vector Center. Because like I said, it is definitely needed if our numbers are any indication. On behalf of the men and women that have served this nation and their families, thank you. And I look forward to continuing to serve Georgia as well as those that have served in this capacity.
Thank you, Colonel. I really appreciate that. before, I don't know if anyone else has questions, but are you able to service the whole state from Warner Robins?
Yes, sir.
And do you feel like you need more satellite locations, or is it good the way you have it with one
Well, we've been
officer?
open 6 months, so right now we're doing fairly well. We do service the rest of the state primarily through distance learning means. I think at some point we probably will need to grow. We were at Kings Bay, and so we did hear from the Camden County folks about their needs. But again, we are brand new, so I think we'll have to see. I don't want to speak on behalf of either system. I think I will take Neil's Neil's lead. I'm in between two systems right now, so I think I will just defer on answering your question.
And from what you've heard today, is there anything that kind of jumps out you that we could be pushing down to the K-12 level to make, you know, military-friendly K-12 flagship schools?
Well, I also serve with Dr. Hines on the Military Interstate Commission Council, so I think just helping to get the word out, that's the big deal. I don't want the Vector Center, and we do serve K through 12 too, not necessarily down to the K level, but we do serve military dependents. And so for our veteran success coaches and trying to get those juniors and seniors who are wanting to go to a USG school or a technical college, we do help coach them and help them figure out what is the best path, what is the best way to finance that education, and what is the best program and school to go to. And so I think the biggest thing is getting the word out and not letting us be the best kept secret here in Central Georgia. And just, I think as well as knowing that Georgia does have the compact and that council serves on behalf of those military students. And if they don't have a school liaison that's near them or they're near an installation, that they can contact the council and we will help them.
Any questions from the committee? Well, I really would appreciate, Colonel, what you're doing, and I also want to acknowledge and appreciate the governor for having the foreknowledge to do this really before this committee even started. So obviously we are doing a lot of good things for Georgia. It's just, we mean, as you say, to get the word out and not be the best kept secret kind of thing in the nation. And also, Dr. Hines, thank you so much for your help, and we'll be working a lot more with both of you to coordinate what we're going to do for this. Hopefully this money we able to keep in the budget for the counselors and that thing. Any other questions from the committee? The last one we're going to talk about is, thank you, Colonel, appreciate it, is Keith Martin from MCEC. We have about 18 minutes before we have to give up the room.
Not accustomed to batting cleanup. I was a leadoff hitter most of my career until the legs went away. Mr. Chairman, members, I am very pleased to have this chance to come before you. The way the lineup has worked, I have heard that Georgia can be estimably proud of the work it has done in higher education and the technical college system through the Vector Center. But I've also heard that K-12 keeps coming up again and again, and that's what I'm here to talk about. There are three specific elements of my background that make my presence here relevant. One is that I worked for the Military Child Education Coalition for 10 years as a program manager, and in the course of that time, working with Renee Daughtry, the school liaison officers all around the state, I probably scheduled more than 24 of our professional development training for educators here in Georgia. The second is that in my civilian career as a broadcast journalist, I covered 3 rounds of BRAC. Personally sat in on many of the hearings, knew the members personally. And the third element is that later in my life, after I retired from the military, I was one of 6 appointed members of the Overseas Basing Commission, which was the overseas BRAC, empowered by the Congress to report to the President, the Secretary of Defense, and the Congress and the President on the overseas footprint. So I understand the process, I understand the realities, I know how it works, and I am very gratified to see that Georgia is viewing this as a proactive challenge. After the shoe drops, there is nothing you can say or do that will influence the course of the decisions made by a BRAC commission, if there is to be one. As your committee goes about the work of trying to construct a package, a platform to portray and present Georgia as military friendly, I hear job opportunity, hugely important. I hear healthcare accessibility and affordability, and I also hear educational quality. Now, why is educational quality such an important and relative issue for this panel? Two simple reasons. Because the service chiefs say it is. They say it will be a factor when they make decisions about where forces are located or where facilities are consolidated, moved, or expanded, which I will refer to in a moment. The second reason is service members tell us it's important. They darn well care about the quality of the schools that their children go to. They care while they're in the service, and they care after they get out of the service. As a retiree or someone simply completed their service, it will determine where they live and where they want to work and where they want to stay. Educational quality, an absolutely critical factor. The Military Child Education Coalition is 19 years old. It was founded to assist military children and families dealing with issues of mobility, transition, deployment, and reintegration. We are the national leader in advocacy and support for military and veteran-connected children. We have respect, reputation, resources, and experience. We don't need to create capacity. We already have courses, we have trainers, we have materials, we have experience and researchers. We provide professional development training for educators. We've done a lot of that here in Georgia, all notably paid for by someone else, the Department of Defense or the individual services, notably the Air Force and the Army. Not one state dollar has gone toward the professional development of educators in Georgia. We conduct student training, student peer group and mentor training. We're actively doing that now in Georgia on a sustainment basis. We conduct training for military parents to help teach them how to be more informed, active, and aggressive advocates and supporters of their child's educational experience. We provide research. I don't believe Georgia has adopted the military student identifier, Mr. Chairman.
It's up for bill this year.
All right. Most other states have, and research based on the military student identifier has provided very valuable information about who the military children are in your state, where they are, and how they perform relative to their non-military counterparts. And finally, we provide military student transition consultants. Right now, we have one in the state of Georgia in Muskogee County Schools, funded by a DODEA grant, Department of Defense Educational Activity. 2 years ago, we made a presentation to the Interstate Compact Council, then chaired by General Bockel, Dave Bockel. It was a draft. It was very well received, a lot of discussion. Last year, at the invitation of Dr. Hines, we made a presentation at the meeting in Perry, a more detailed, analytical approach. This year, what you have in the handouts, or will have in the handouts, is a draft of a plan, not the plan, a plan that would help Georgia step up, stand up, and be recognized for educational quality support. Now, what has changed in the 2 years since we made that initial proposal? Well, first of all, it was a very defensive proposal. Everybody was thinking about losses, and Georgia had some losses. They saw a regimental combat team at Fort Benning downsized to a battalion combat team. That's a lot of people and a lot of jobs. On the other side, you've had plus up at Fort Gordon with the Cyber Command. But the original intent of the State Comprehensive Support Plan that you will see in the handout is that it was defensive, to protect against losses. There's a new dimension With the reversal of the political polarity in the United States, we now have a climate where there is a possibility of increases, force structure increases, plus up instead of scale down. So the new dimension of what we're proposing takes into account the idea that there could be positioning for possible gains in a very competitive environment between and among the high military density states. A word of caution, what has not changed? The Army and the Air Force both say they have 30% or more excess capacity. That's defined as installations and infrastructure. BRAC, they have asked for. If they don't get it, they will find a way to make those cuts or adjustments. It's a matter of dollars and cents. We now have, the Military Child Education Coalition, direct experience working in 4 states with a comprehensive support plan. They've gotten it. Texas, $500,000 initial commitment is now a $1 million commitment for this year. In Alabama, they started with an $800,000 commitment. They are sustaining that with another $800,000 of training programs this year. South Carolina started with a $100,000 pilot. It will be $300,000 this year. They're talking about $1 million for the following year. Florida started at $250,000. They are now at $500,000 and looking to go exponentially higher. A footnote on Florida to give you a sense of competitiveness. Florida has committed $4 million to an advertising campaign to attract veterans and retirees from other military density states to leave those states and come to Florida. And they are touting educational quality as one of the reasons for doing that. 6 general qualities of a comprehensive support plan. It needs to be proactive. That's why we're here. Not after the shoe has dropped. Too late then. Needs to be undertaken before decisions are made. It needs to be tangible, real, not just proclamations. It needs to be effective. It needs to be based on proven and known training programs and resources that work. It needs to be sustained, not a one-hit wonder. Not a one-time commitment and saying, we've done that. It doesn't work that way. It needs to be a sustained commitment. It needs to be visible, something that people can see and hang their hat on and talk about. And lastly, it needs to be promotable, something that you, the governor, the congressional delegation, the Interstate Compact Council can stand in front of a BRAC commission or service chiefs and say, look what Georgia is doing tangibly to demonstrate that it values the military presence so vital to the state's economy. There are 2 specific characteristics of a comprehensive support plan. The first of those is that it needs to appropriately weight the high military density areas. In the report, you will see you've got at least 7 of them. Fort Benning, where my military career started, being one. And I know what that got me. An all expenses tour, paid tour of Southeast Asia, but still loved it. Get back there when I can. The second thing it needs to do is recognize the reality that there are military and veteran-connected children in every school district, every school building, and every classroom in the state of Georgia. How's that possible? You'll have some superintendents who'll tell you, we don't have any military kids. They do. They just don't know it. What will emerge from the draft that we have put together for your discussion and consideration, or would emerge, is your plan. Not what we think, but what you think. Your needs, your requirements. I would believe and hope that it would be in consultation with the Georgia Department of Education, with whom we worked closely in the past, and with Dr. Hines and the Interstate Compact Council. Their counsel and input would be very, very valuable. The message needs to equal the effort. If you don't tell people what you're doing, they'll assume you're doing nothing. I told Governor Rendell that when I worked for him. About 10 times I told him that, and it does work. So finally, I would just say this. we are on the have the opportunity here to add the third leg to the stool. You've got job opportunity, health care. We need to add educational quality to that and form that three-legged stool. To put Georgia on the leaderboard, to be known for what it is doing, not for what it isn't doing. With a meaningful and significant program of contribution to the educational quality for military and veteran-connected children, and to position Georgia as a state that values the military presence so vital to the state's economy. Mr. Chairman, with that, your questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Martin? Which one? What number?
Chairman as well. Do we, when we, what I hear from your comments, sir, and I thank you for what you said, education has got to be key. Education has got to be concentrated on, and the quality of public education and educational choice and the resources for military kids is absolutely vital. It's the number one. It sounds like all other things won't compensate if that one is not just addressed, but excellent. My question is maybe in the school systems, whether it's Muskogee County schools, is it possible for us, and maybe this is a question for the chairman, with Muskogee County schools or Houston County schools, how do we identify which are military children and which are not, and what their needs are? Is that a concern where we say to a child or a child's parents, are you involved with the military? Are we tripping up anything?
Well, Representative Glanton has a bill. He's already dropped this kind of rules right now that will identify these children. And as Mr. Martin said, most states already do this. We're kind of behind the power curve. Also, the DoD is, believe it or not, tracking every single military child now for education purposes.
The Pentagon is tracking military kids. That's hundreds of thousands of kids.
It's a big, big lift.
About 1.8 million nationally, and if you add veterans' children, it's more than 4 million.
Are they tracking veterans' kids?
I don't think so.
No,
It's
they're
active
not
duty.
tracking veterans' children. No, sir, they're not.
Well, thank you for your comments very much.
Look forward to working
Thanks,
with
sir.
the panel. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Blackman, you wanted to make a...
Mr. Chairman, I'll just defer till the next meeting. I know time is short, and there are a few working group members here, so I'll just defer to next time and maybe get something out via email.
Thanks,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
I really, really, really appreciate y'all being here, and it's a big lift, a big ask for you to come to this. But I know I've learned a lot, and we will be charging hard on this. Thank you very much.